Now, you may have heard of something called the caste system in India, but did you know it happens here in Canada as well? It's a lottery by birth. And in some Indian homes, it dictates who you can date, who you can marry, the lowest ranking being a, quote, untouchable, which is a title our next guest was born into and was able to break free from. So please welcome Meera Estrada, who's joining us now. Thank you so much for Meera. It is so good to have you. Thank you. Could you help us understand the caste system, how it works, what it means, and what are the different sort of class systems that exist within the caste system?
For sure. So it's a 3,000-year-old hierarchical system in India. And if you think about it as a pyramid, so at the top of the pyramid, you have the Brahmins, or who are the teachers, the priests. Then you have the warriors. And then you have the merchants and the business people, and then you have the laborers. And then there is a group that is seen so beneath them that they're outside of that system. They're subcastes, and those are the untouchables, or Dalits, which means the broken ones. And so they do the menial jobs of cleaning sewers, and they're forced into these jobs. And like, it is unescapable. That is who you are by birth, and you cannot escape that.
You are a champion of this cause. You have been working tirelessly to try and get rid of this hierarchy or have people look past it. Why is this so important to you, Meera?
Well, first and foremost, it's personal because I am born untouchable. And when I look at my family history, recent history, my grandfather in India, he actually learned to read and write sitting outside of school because he was not allowed in a school building. If an upper caste person walks by, he had to put his head in the dirt because even the shadow is seen as impure. My father's era was the era of segregation. So he could go to school. He sat at the back of the classroom. He was not called by his name. He was called BC, meaning backward class. He couldn't drink from the water pot. Upper caste boys would pour the water into his mouth. You know, everything to demean and dehumanize a person. I've never lived a day in my life in India. And caste has been with me my entire life in terms of people asking what caste I am, especially in my 20s. My feeling of self-worth, self-esteem was so low because I didn't tell anybody. I was just passing, not even my closest friends. I did not tell a soul what caste I was born into.
That is a hard way to live. And then to realize that people are asking you about caste here in Canada, that is something I did not know. So you didn't speak of your caste to anyone around you. What was the turning point? When did you start talking about this with people who are close to you?
So it was a very difficult turning point. Not until I was 40 years old did I talk about it. Okay. And I was at one of my close friends, again, growing up here, 20-year friendship. I had just had my second child, my daughter. We were on a play date. My mom even had come with me. And I was a journalist, and I hadn't told anybody about caste, but from a journalistic perspective, I had read that lower caste surrogates are paid less than higher caste surrogates. And my friend had just come from India at one of those fertility clinics. And so I asked her, I said, is that true? And she looked at me so nonchalantly, and she said, yeah, of course. I would never get a lower caste surrogate. I wouldn't want my kid to be stupid. And she said it, and my heart stopped, and I looked from the corner of my eye. I could see my daughter, my baby daughter, and her daughter playing together. I saw my mom, and I said, I am not going to have my child go through this. And my mom and I, when we got in the car, I burst into tears. I said, Mom, I need to speak up. And it was the first time I said, yes, you need to speak up. Because she came from a place of fear as well, which I understand, but she realized, she said, no, you say whatever, you tell the world. And I did.
And you are, you know, you're doing this while your parents watch you take these really courageous and brave steps, because this is a really big deal. I want to talk about caste in the Canadian context. So it lives here, it moves here. How does it work within our Canadian system? Because I think we're used to class, but we're learning about caste.
And so if you think about it, as more and more people immigrate, yes, we bring our beautiful cultures and traditions. We celebrate Diwali, Holi, but we also bring those uglier sides. And so it has become a big problem here, especially in university settings. In schools, I was asked to speak at a school of 12, 13-year-olds because there is caste-based bullying. And when I asked the class, I said, does anyone know what caste is? 95% of them raised their hands. These are 12-year-olds. And so it's starting very young. But there is progress being made. The states is passing laws in Seattle, the whole state of California. The TDSB, which is Ontario's biggest school system, finally passed a motion to have caste in the curriculum and as a protected category. It's now gone up to the Ontario Human Rights Commission. So things are starting to change. And I think just naming it gives it legitimacy.
So TDSB is Toronto District School Board for
Yes.
anyone who lives outside of this province. Being called a protected group, what does that mean?
So in the same way, so protected from discrimination. So in the same way, race, sexual orientation, gender are protected categories, like protected from discrimination. Caste is now becoming part of that.
So for all of us listening, I want to know, are there actionable steps that we can take to help to smash this hierarchies? Like, how would we do it when we are outside of the culture?
Yeah, so 100% education to me, I think, is key. Read the books. There are books here that you can read, learn about it, you know, share your stories and listen to other people's stories that come from their voices. And the films, Origin, Ava DuVernay's film is a masterpiece. I think it should be shown in schools for people to understand, also understand our interconnectedness.
Yeah.
And, you know, asking what we can do. I just want to read this quote that was in Origin. She says, "Not one of us was around when this house was built, but here we are, the current occupants of a house with stress cracks in the foundation and a roof that must be replaced. We are heirs to whatever is right or wrong here. We didn't erect these uneven pillars, but they are ours to deal with now. Any more deterioration is on our watch."
We have a responsibility.
Yes, all of us, whether or not we created this, we now have the opportunity to fix this.
What's interesting is that in a Western context, you can move in and out of class.
Yes.
Because a lot of it is tied to money.
Monetary, right?
Monetary gains. You can't go in and out of caste.
You cannot.
So this is determined by birth. Is there any way to jump caste? Can you marry into a higher caste?
You could. So I do know of people who have married intercaste. Before it was seen as a definite no-no.
Yeah.
But it comes up then, you know, like your caste is showing. You always feel that feeling of not good enough. And that's something I struggled with in my 20s. Like, I'm not a good girl. I'm not a good fit. I'm not from a good family. And so I ended up actually dating outside of my community because I sort of felt like I won't ever be seen for me. And it's a hard, especially for young people. And if that was in my 20s, I now have cousins in their 20s going through the exact same thing.
What are your hopes in moving the caste conversation forward? Where do we need to go from here?
Action. In the same way, without people having these conversations, doing the work, slavery was abolished, but it took brave people to come forward. It took allyship to move forward. And that is my hope, that one day we can eradicate this. Yes, it's a very old system, but change is possible.
Change is always possible. Evolution,
100%.
change, absolutely. Meera, thank you so much.